So today is the 6th of March 2014. My name is Rosa Kurowska and this interview is for the Ming Ai London Institute British Chinese Workforce Heritage Project. And can I begin by asking your name?
I'm Jabez Lam.
And where were you born?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Okay. And can you tell me some about your family?
My family, I have 14 brothers and sisters. I'm the 13th. Yeah, and parents were from China and went to Hong Kong after the war. I was born in Hong Kong and then came here to study. Yeah.
What province in China were your parents from?
Canton, Guangdong. Yeah.
So, a big family.
At the time, there was no more.
So 13, so you're nearly the youngest?
Yeah, nearly.
And what work did your mother and father do?
They were businesses, yeah. The trading, I think.
What kind of things did they trade in?
I don't know, I was too young, yeah.
And what education did you have?
Well, I came here to study GCE O-Level at the time, and then I ended up with a diploma in community and youth work. Yeah.
So you came here to high school?
Yeah. GCE O-Level, which is pre-day, it's now called GCSE and A-Level, yeah.
And you came with your family?
No, I came by myself.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, at that time, the higher education places are so few in Hong Kong. So unless you are super rich or super bright, the prospect of get higher education is quite slim if you remain in Hong Kong. So it's quite common for people of, I would say, I belong to the group that are lucky, that are middle class, able to afford, so to go abroad and do higher education. Yeah.
And so when did you come to the UK?
74. Yeah.
So you were
too long.
20.
17.
17.
Yeah. No, 18. I can't count. Yeah, 18, yeah. That's right.
It's so young to be on your own in another country.
Yeah. Okay. My brother came before me. So he was already, it's harder for him. So he's on his own, and when I came, he's already doing his A-Level. So at least I have some footstep to follow.
And so, how did you travel here?
Luckily by plane. Although rather slow, have to stop in Bahrain to refill. But yeah.
And then you stayed with your brother when you arrived?
Yeah.
In London?
In London, yeah.
So, what were your first impressions of London?
Well, to start with, it's very spacious. I came in summer. That you see the open space, the park, and that's an immediate impression that you feel more relaxed, I suppose. Yeah.
And has that changed over the time you've been in London?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You have congestion charge, you know.
And so when you first arrived, you were studying.
Yeah.
Did you work at the same time?
Oh yeah. I have to work part-time to supplement the living cost and tuition fees. But at that time it was very good. I remember the first college I went to doing O-level, it was something like £30 a year. Yeah, £30 or £45. Yeah, but if you worked at that time, if you worked as a waiter, you get about £28 a week. So it is within reach. Yeah.
Yeah. And was that a lot cheaper than Hong Kong then for education?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it's not about cheap. It's you simply don't have the places. There's only 2 universities and a few higher education institutes in Hong Kong at the time. Now you have so many.
So, what were your first jobs and part-time jobs?
Counter in takeaway shop. Yeah.
What was that like?
Initially, didn't get used to it. In catering, you have period of rush hour, and after rush hour for a couple of hours, that is required. So I used to sit at the counter, doze away when it's not busy. But when it's busy, then I couldn't catch up. Well, it was so busy that you expect to take the order, you expect to help in the kitchen, and always make some order. But yeah, get by.
How did you move from that work into working in the community?
Working in the takeaway initially was just as I said, how to earn the income to supplement my study. So throughout my study, I've been working so many places. Worked in takeaway, worked in restaurants, worked as a motorbike messenger. Nearly lost my life. Definitely lost 2 bites. And working as a sales and all sorts of things. But that's part of life. When you are studying and you need to work to supplement. And as I said, then my study ended up in a community and youth work certificate. When I was studying, I have been involved in various activities, with a group of students from Hong Kong, start to be socially aware, start to look at around us. And a group of us have formed a study group. We call ourselves Foxing, means reawakening. That somehow like all youth that thought that we can change the world. So we sort of have a sort of mutual study, discussion on political and social issues, and we all form the view and belief that we are socialists. And as socialists, the fundamental principle of being socialist is to address the inequality. So I was working in a restaurant in Chinatown at the time, doing 2 or 3 days a week part-time. And come in touch with a lot of migrant workers, Chinese workers, emigrate here. There was a time in 1976-77, about 3-4 years after the 1973 Immigration Act. 71 Immigration Act came into force on the 1st of January 1973, whereby before 1973, the people who are in Hong Kong are British citizens of United Kingdom and colonies. They can come and work here. After 1st of April 73, they can't. Those who are already here fear that their children cannot come and join them. So there's an influx of bringing in their families from abroad, from Hong Kong, where they're originally from. Most of them are non-English speaking. And the family arrived, well, before that, mainly are single male workers working here, have family back home, sending money home. But with the young family coming here, the social system here wasn't prepared for it. A lot of children, most of the children are non-English speaking. They arrive, don't know about free education, don't know about free NHS, don't know about housing net, homelessness legislation. And at the place I worked, I met with many of the workers of non-English speakers, family here, family of 6 who rent a room in Water Street and felt they were lucky they can rent a room so near to the workplace. Don't know anything about they're entitled to housing. So that's how we start as a group of friends that feel that, well, this is not right. These are people who are the CUKC who are resident, they have their rights, but they don't know how to access it. So we went to the Fitzrovia neighborhood office, which is a neighborhood office based in Good Street, the nearest to Chinatown, and talked to the workers there and tell them that, look, we have this rule that we want to provide service, we want to use their premises. So we come into agreement that we were all students. We just take rota that every Wednesday from 4 o'clock and Sunday, the center give us access to the facility. We open the center, see people, get the information, sort of leave the debriefing to the center worker for them to follow up. So that's how we all start. After a few years, then we became a group of us, form our own organization and get funding. Yeah.
And this was during your time studying. Where were you?
In London. Yeah.
Which college were you at?
I was in Chelsea College, London U, doing a degree in science subject, which because of these activities I sort of increasingly felt that is not their career that I want to pursue. And after that, then I changed to do social work. During the first year of my social work, the British government decided to increase the overseas student fees by 500%. So, being a socialist, although it didn't affect me, I was home student then, it's so unfair. So I started a Hong Kong student fees campaign, and campaigned for against the wage increase, which resulted in the Hong Kong government agreed to make available a interest-free loan for those who are here, students who are here. And out of that formed the UK Federation of Hong Kong Students. But because I devote more time in my campaigning work than attend lecture, even though I handed on my homework, I got expelled. Then I ended up doing the computer youth work. Yeah.
So that's how you moved into that, and that was the work that you found more meaning in.
Yeah. Then when I finished my computer youth work, I throughout all the period continuing continuously during running that voluntary service in the Fitzrovia neighborhood office with a group of friends. And by that time, then we a bit more experienced. At that time, also the Greater London Council have a radical administration under Ken Livingstone, and who set up the ethnic minority unit and the women support unit, recognize the need of the minority group and the disadvantaged position of the women, and we get funding from the unit and set up the first organization ourselves, the Chinese Information Advice Center, in 1983. Yeah.
And the Chinese Information and Advice Center, did that have any relation with there was the Chinese Workers Group and the Chinese Action Group? There were some other groups at that time.
Yeah. The CIAC was a merge of Chinese Workers Group and Chinese Action Group. I am from the Chinese Workers Group, which published for probably 4 or 5 years that we published a magazine called Chinese Workers. Well, I won't say magazine, sort of elementary handbook that's basic information about welfare, some information about rights, how to access their rights. And there's a separate group called the Chinese Action Group, which solely just advice-based. And in 1981, the Chinese Action Group and Chinese Workers Group decided to merge together and call ourselves Chinese Information Advice Center, and running a service under the name of CIAC, and got funding from GOC in 1983.
And the Chinese Workers Group you were with, that was the student.
Yeah.
Coming out of the student group.
Yeah. Yeah, the Chinese Action Group was set up by a group of Chinese professionals. There were social workers mainly, and psychiatrists, psychiatric nurses. Again, their aim is to provide a direct service, the advice service. So they were based in a print shop in Chinatown. We were based in Philadelphia Neighborhood Office. We formed in Chinese Action Group. I think we formed in 1976. Chinese Action Group, I think they formed in 1979. So by 1981, then we start to acquaint to each other, and we provide similar service. And felt that there's sufficient share sufficient vision to become a group. Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask again a bit more about the Chinese Workers Group. The
Chinese Workers Group.
Were you all Hong Kong students?
I think all of us are. Yeah, all of us are. Yeah, all of us are from Hong Kong. The Chinese Action Group have someone from Hong Kong, someone from Malaysia, and some from New Zealand. So it's a more mixed group. Yeah.
Okay, and the Chinese Action Group, they all had a Chinese heritage.
Yeah.
So with the CIAC, how was that process in the beginning, setting it up? Because it's now based in Soho.
Yeah.
Has it always been those offices?
No, I've changed many times. Yeah, when we first set up, we were in 1981 when we first merged. Then we were just borrow space from organization. In 1983, as I said, that by that time the Kenneth Vincent's administration set up the Ethnic Minority Unit and Women's Support Unit, and we applied to them and get funding. Right from the beginning, that our vision is that yes, advice work is important. We have two equally important element of the activity. Right at the beginning, we see that direct service is important, a brand, but matter for the community. That you got to provide advice service, but advice service alone is not sufficient. The way to tackle the underlying problem is to have community development. So we have one community development worker, which I took the approach. a woman project worker, which have a very specific brief to do the community development with the women. And then we have the immigration advice, then we have the general advice. So that is the setup. And that's how we start. We just get funding and just set up and just start by advertising our service, publication, better resources, more information on people's rights and organization. My brief on community development during the time I was holding that position, one of the major words is to develop local community organizations, which within a few years I have followed by CIAC. I sort of start from scratch basically to go to local area, start the Eastern Chinese Center, Eastern Chinese Association, Heritage Chinese Association, Liu Hum Chinese Association, and London Health Resource Center. The women project worker is also very successful. Women project worker also do casework. One of the problems at the time is that a lot of the women came here, joined the husband. Husband been here for years, working in catering, long working hour. The working condition didn't change even the family arrived. So women with the children, very often women are non-English speaking, very isolated, and a lot of domestic violence. The way of the I would say, how to put it, that is not offensive to the community. More traditional thinking is that women are submissive to men, basically. And we have so many cases of domestic violence that we helped our colleague in the women's advisory and the women development openly sort of advise and advocate of women independent. And as a result, a lot of women who suffer from domestic violence came forward, and we assist them to become independent or divorce, which was a scandal, quote unquote, a taboo, not scandal, a taboo. I remember vividly one occasion that our colleague have assisted women who fleeing domestic violence and help her to get the children, find own accommodation, getting benefit, and move away. And the husband been looking for the woman, you know. And one morning, one of the so-called community leader came to our center. We were in the top floor in Salisbury Avenue. We could hear the heavy footsteps before they came. Boom, 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 and push open the door. And as soon as the community came in, that woman's husband was coming into following him footsteps into the office. And the community just say, "Where is my staff wife? Give her back to him. And you are making him unwell." And then this staff was followed by saying, "Oh, unlike you well-educated British-minded kids, I am a chef all my life. All I know is how to chop chicken. If you don't give my wife back to me, I'm chop you instead." That is the atmosphere that you went in. Yeah. And I think we were really good that we withheld. And our women project worker was very successful, forming the National Federation of Chinese Women. Yeah. Which linked up with Yin and all these other organizations, and it was named that too. And we went out to distribute leaflets to invite women to come and register and join the conference. I remember I went to Wong Kee with my colleagues to distribute leaflets. And as we walked, it was so abusive that my colleagues distributed leaflets. And the waiter there, what is it? It's the National Federation of Chinese Women, 全國華人婦女聯合會. They had the title and say, what is this woman, the National Women Association for? Teach them how to make love, teach them how to please us. So abusive. And my colleague just burst down in tears. And at that time, it was in 1986, 87, I think. That was after an incident whereby waiters, 4 waiters were being sentenced to 18 months or 2 years imprisonment for defending themselves when they get attacked. And I was the one who campaigned for the release. And during that campaign, there's other incident happened, including in Wong Kee, that the waiter got arrested, and I have go and intervene and get them released. And when I saw that, I was so angry. So I went back with the colleague, wrote a letter to the owner. I said, well, look, when your restaurant was being attacked, who you turn to support your workers and get them released? And when our workers come to just to distribute leaflets, why are you abusing our workers? And they give her an apology, but they just reflect the kind of mentality, the kind of community. If you can use the word, backwardness at the time. I think things move a long way now.
Yeah, I know CIAC still have their women's campaigns quite central to their advice work. I think even the UK population has moved on a long way in gender. But I mean, do you think that change has been significant within the Chinese community about women's rights?
I think to a large extent, yes, definitely compared to the 80s, it has moved a long way. At least you don't have the kind of open attitude of looking down on women, right? But it's subtly, I think to a large extent, it is the working environment which are the fundamental in that. A lot of the Chinese communities are still working in catering. Nature of catering is long working hours, long unsocial hours, and in particular, well, that the way we organize as a business. Very often, the European working directive is 40-hour week maximum, right? What is the average hours for our Chinese workers in restaurant? 60. 55 is good, right? And a lot of them are small establishment, take away, which is a family run, right? For family run, how many hours per week? 80, 100. You are on guard on call all the time. And women are help in the shop when it's busy. Run the family when it's not busy. The husband probably work later after the shop closes, clean up whatever, if it's a family business. Women always got up 7 o'clock in the morning, take the children to work, go to school. Then work too late, right? Those are the fundamental environment that of the working condition that create a situation of the women's whether it's tasted or whether the circumstances are continuously compounded by this. Yes, it improved, but still a lot to go.
And how long did you work as a community development worker at the CIAC?
Until 1989.
And during that time, your work was always in community development?
Yeah, in community, well, mainly developing organization, but alongside that, I also do, as I said earlier, that we see, as a group, we see the fundamental difficulties is the working condition. So we felt to change the working condition is a more important element to change the circumstances. So one of my projects, which is not so successful, is to set up a Chinese union. So we try to start a Chinese Workers Association, which we successfully have up to, I forgot the exact number, under 100, but at least 50 or 60 workers from Chinatown regularly also meet and discuss about issues. And alongside that, a lot of employment cases. Just now, my women college take on cases on domestic violence, or take on cases of unfair dismissal, or take on cases of unfair treatment at work. I took the first case of unfair dismissal against a restaurant owner, who the quote-unquote customary practice of the Chinese restaurant at the time is that if you are the owner of a restaurant, you sold a business, you're the king, right? You just get rid of your staff, hand your business to the new owner, and the new owner get all his or her own people, own staff in. But by law, there's something called transfer of undertaking. If you sold a business, you sold the employee as well with the business. So this particular restaurant just sold the business and get rid of everyone. So I sort of took on the case and won the employment tribunal and won a settlement. And the date that the settlement was reached, it's caused quite sensation in Chinatown. All the owners went berserk. What the hell was going on? What's this kids doing at the time I was younger? We have our Chinese way. Why can't he respect the Chinese way? And then they have a employers meeting in one of the restaurants. And the waiter who served them sort of overheard what they said. This member of CIAC, Chinese Workers Association, came to tell us what they said. They decided to isolate us, to victimize us, all sort of scheme. Say, look, be careful. Even thought of getting the riot, getting the trial. Be careful, blah blah blah. And our response is that to publish a whole oil means an extra. At that time, we still publish the Chinese workers, right? An extra of the Chinese worker, 2 A3 size, front page is the report of that case, explain of the law and how it happened. Middle page is to explain what is unfair dismissal, what is transfer of undertaking. And the bottom page is a report of their meeting, what had happened. And then that caused big uproar. And during that time, another restaurant had had a chef who'd been working for the same restaurant for 5-6 years. Been off sick for more than 3 months. He got dismissed. So he come to me, and so I called the owner and said, look, well, there's something called sickness benefits, there's something called sickness payment, they're entitled to sick leave, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, come and see me. I go to the restaurant and see him. He said, okay, write down what I should do. I need to check with my professional team. So I write down to him. Then 2 days later, he ring up and say, look, you said I should pay this guy XYZ amount if I were to dismiss him, right? My business cannot wait for him to come back. I am now dismiss him. I have this money, I'm ready for him to come and collect. You and him come and collect tomorrow, 12 o'clock, blah, blah. Okay, I went with him. What in the restaurant? The owner was sitting, saw me come in, get up, right, from his pocket, I took the envelope up and said, this is the amount you said he entitled, throw it to the floor. I bent down and picked it up, and the table of 10 next door, were all try it, got up and beat the hell out of me and throw me out of the restaurant. And told me, don't mess up about with us again. And there is the Chinese community, how they sort out differences.
Wow.
And they still.
So you'd say the triads then and now.
The employer have to employ the triad to do their dirty work.
And would you say that's why the attempts to form a Chinese union in London have been difficult?
Well, I won't say it's directly because of that. It's rather from 1989, then I left, went to Hong Kong. Initially, I intended to go back and live there, but didn't work out, so I came back. But after I came back, I worked in the local authority as a little bureaucrat. So for a few years, out of the scene from the Chinese community.
So you went back to Hong Kong after that incident?
No. It was after the Tiananmen massacre. At the Student Democratic Movement in early '89, so I and a group of friends. CIAC was quote unquote the hub of radical in the Chinese community at the time. We all believe ourselves were socialists. So when the democratic movement in China starts, so our volunteer, our staff, everyone just go and campaign. We form a group called the Chinese Solidarity Campaign in support of the student movement, and we make statements in Guardian and everywhere. And after the massacre, we organized vigil and help receive those who escape. To remain, to come to this country, to get asylum status.
Did you find? Sorry.
So after that, I wanted to work with Hong Kong and didn't work out. No.
So you went back to Hong Kong then?
Yeah.
And did you find there was a lot of people who came to the UK who'd been at Tiananmen that day, that week?
At the time, it's more of a lot of students were here, and it's more to work with those students who were already here in fear of return to China, right? Yeah, we do have some who escaped from China, who had took part in the movement and escaped through a route and end up here. So we also assist them, support them. Yeah.
And at that time was the kind of immigration policy, was it easy for them to get asylum at that time?
No, it's the same. Immigration is always a hot potato, right? But then one thing you must say that to some extent the respect of human rights and respect as a home for asylum resulted in some policies at the time. For example, at the time that the Home Office has suspended its policy on overseas students from mainland China, if their visa expire, instead of treating them as has to leave, they would give automatic, if they want, give them a limited extension for a period of time. I forget exactly how long, a year or two, instead of immediately request them to go, to return home. So there are some policy changes as a result of the campaign that we have highlighted the unstable situation and lobby the parliament and get some policy.
And that was the Chinese Solidarity campaign?
Yeah. Chinese Solidarity campaign together with groups that will exist in the Laogo. Laogo is a trade union at the time. It's called National Association of Local Government Officers, which is quite a radical union. The Laogo has a group of Chinese workers in local government, also Laogo member, and lobby the Laogo, the trade union to support. And trade union, being the trade union movement, have a very good link with the parliament and politicians.
And so that campaign was quite successful?
I won't say it's successful. Well, the students still have to escape from their home country. The democratic movement still got suppressed, and it managed to support those who were seeking asylum or seeking to escape persecution, temporarily at least.
And after everything had kind of calmed down after Tiananmen, and I mean the Western media was very focused on it, but they kind of stopped covering it after some time.
That's the nature of media. Nature of media, when things happen, that is all everyday top news. Once the headline move, it move.
And after that, in the 90s, did you continue to have any contact with, say, the Students' Democratic Movement after it went underground, or were there people coming here? Did that kind of work continue?
In the 90s, there were people who claimed themselves to be. There were people who actually did take part in the Tiananmen occupation, came here. There were people actually who were part of the Beijing Autonomy Workers Union, were here. I think for the first few years, there were some more regular activities on democratic movement overseas. But very soon, I think, to a large extent, in China, the situation in China has changed. Although it's the same Deng Xiaoping, it has changed in the sense that it maintained, because at the time people feared that after the crackdown on the democratic movement, the group that support the crackdown will continue the oppression. That means to go after those who took part afterward. But that did not happen to a large extent. It did to leaders, but to most who take part, who are not of the main organizers, to a large extent, compared to previous political oppression, were relatively mild. So people, to a large extent, and also that the country continue the route of economic reform, which has continuously improved the life of the vast majority of the people in China, and that to some extent those who were advocate for the oppression, for crackdown, were marginalized in a way that for the stability and continued economic development, that the quote unquote priority of the democratic movement are sort of lot on at forefront of people's mind. After a few years, I think by the late 90s, many of those who in the 1989 were the forefront of the vanguard of the revolution of the democratic movement, many of them turned to become businessmen. Those who were here gained their British citizens by then and returned to China as a businessman, and welcomed by the Chinese embassy here with open arms their wealthy compatriot to bring trade to the country.
Yeah, the change is so fast,
isn't it?
Yeah. So this is some of them. I mean, there's so many campaigns that you've been involved in over the years. I don't know where we should start. We've talked about the Chinese solidarity and something about Chinese Workers Association. I'm interested in this strike in Brighton.
Strike in Brighton, yeah. Yeah, in 1987, I think. I forgot now, yeah. 87, I think, yeah. This group of restaurants called Willis, they are seafood restaurants. The legend says that the owner, forgot his name, the owner initially was a just seafood store trader, then met this Chinese chef, and they together opened the first seafood restaurant, called it Willis, and this seafood trader managed the shopfront. The Chinese chef managed the kitchen. It was so successful that they opened up branch after branch after branch. And then they have an open franchise of all the restaurants that the model of the Englishman in the front promote the food, the Chinese man in the kitchen making a good product. It's such a wonderful formula that they happen time and again, open one after the other. Then there's this village in Brighton who was franchised to someone, newly franchised, and this I forgot his name. This new owner, franchise owner, sort of felt that, well, the recipe is here. They really need to have a workforce that can communicate with each other. Apparently, even after 20-30 years of the kitchens, British kitchen staff working with this guy, they don't improve their English. They still can't communicate. The kitchen is only communication. The kitchen is only by Chinese, to the extent that you have to employ a Chinese-speaking potter, Chinese-speaking washing up. So this new franchise owner felt that, look, we have the recipe. I need to communicate with all the workers. I felt that they can change they can change the workforce with the same successful formula on the food without the Chinese chef. So they decided to give them the notice. And I think there is four of the chefs. They're all Chinese, right? When this new franchise owner first bought, already came to me and talked about, hey, this franchise owner, we heard about him. We heard about how he behaved in other shops. We feel vulnerable, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, well, the best thing is really for you to join the union. So I recruit them to the Transport and General Workers Union, TGWU, which has a catering branch. when I was organizing the City Chinese Workers Association, there's also another organization. Forgot the name of the organization. It's funded by, like CIAC, funded by GLC. Abbreviation is called SWOT, Service Worker Action Group or something like that. The brief of that organization is to unionize service worker. So I was on that committee, on the organization, so I know the union, a lot of union people were there. So get them to join the Transport and General Workers Union. And a few months later, the franchise owner decided to implement his plan and sack them. And immediately they came to us and said, okay, report to the TGW. TGW branch intervene, only insist, thought breakdown, so we start a picket. The picket, they were in Brighton, we're based in London. The four chefs have a little bit of command of English. It's very, very challenging. So we have to work that is in Brighton. It's outside the catchment of CIAC, which is funded by London government, to cover Brighton. But in principle, then we feel that it's important to support them. So we form a rota. That every day we have at least two of us coming from London to Brighton to join the picket, catch a last back. And we went to London, when we were in Brighton, I went to the local job centre. That was in 1967. A lot of unemployed youth. The anarchists in Brighton was quite strong. Went to the job centre, distributed leaflet, talked to the unemployed workers, and they were very, very helpful. They immediately agreed that they will come and help the picket line every day. I think the restaurant opened in 5:30 or 5. The earliest we arrive in Brighton is 6:30 or 7. So the unemployed workers union, based on the job centre, form a rota as well. So they will go and help the picket line every day from 5 to 7 until we have somebody arrive. Then we'll man the picket line for them. That took probably 3.5, 4 months. And during that period, that is one of the first catering strike involved Chinese worker, which I think the interesting thing is that which I learned from that is that earlier, as I told you, that because of the unfair dismissal case, because of the sickness case, I got beaten up. The employer basically are also quote unquote community leader, right? That they've been saying about Chinese have a different way, right? But when this one, the employer is not a Chinese, right? I learned from that race is more important than right. My campaign on that, surprisingly, got a good resonance from the Chinese media, not because of the workers' rights, because the workers are Chinese. So there was quite a good response from the community of support the Chinese worker being victimized by the white employer, whom the Chinese workers have built up their wealth for all this year. It's not about, the support is not about because they were Chinese, the workers, the employment right were being trampled on because they were Chinese. So, but nevertheless, that strike, interesting enough, got even it's only for four Chinese workers. It got the attention of the General Secretary of Transport General Workers Union, and the General Secretary, Ron Todd at the time, specifically went to the picket line and meet them, and I think Ron Todd's visit really changed the atmosphere, make the employer feel that, wow, the general secretary of a union descend to my front door. When the general secretary came, of course, all the TGW workers in Brighton also came along. Also, there's hundreds of trade unionists are sort of congregate in front of the restaurant, and speeches were made, and very soon afterwards we got a settlement. Yeah.
And what was the settlement?
Compensation. They refused to take that back, but quite a handsome settlement. Yeah.
That's really good. And we touched on the diamond campaigns, because a lot of your campaigns have been for catering workers.
That's two diamond campaign.
Two, yeah.
One is 1987, one is 1999.
Yeah, because we've been trying to find out about them. So 1987 is a diamond 4.
Yeah.
That was the first one.
Yeah, that one the waiter was sentenced to imprisonment, and actually went in prison before we got involved in campaign for the release. Yeah.
Because I know that we visited CIAC last year, and they still have a lot of the photographs.
Are they? Yeah. Yeah, I remember that our campaign. Well, in the 1987, how interesting is that the workers were attacked, were arrested. Owner of the diamond restaurant at that time was the chair of the London Chinatown Association. And that when heard about that, some of the workers came to us, our CWA members, said, this happened. We went and offered to help, right? And this chair of Chinese Chinatown Association, their employer organization, felt that they don't need these kids to help us, and they only make things worse. They are too radical. Our way is to pally with the police and chit-chat with them, and we'll be okay. And they refused even to allow us to talk to the worker. They even told the workers that if they are to let us intervene, they no longer support them. Then they sent to prison. I went to visit the family. When I visited the first family, the wife said, "Yeah, this is what happened." Blah blah blah. I said, "Okay, it's too late to look back what we should have done or not have done. The important thing now is to get them released. What I need is that to see all the family and see how we can help. My suggestion is to raise awareness among the community and to campaign for the release." And the family agreed to contact the other for me. That's Mrs. Lam agreed to contact her other for me. And within hours, Mrs. Lam called me back. I talked to the second one, Mrs. Chu. Mrs. Chu talked to the boss, who was the association chair. And the boss told them, look, if you allow these people, you talk to these people, don't expect us to help you. Right? So it's really difficult for the family. I'm so disgusted by it. I told them, I can't promise you anything, but I can promise you, your experience is not unique. And I'm sure the Chinese community share your grief. I believe we can mobilize the Chinese community to campaign for the release. And good for them. Good for them. They give me trust and signed the agreement for us to campaign. That was coincide. The photo I believe that you will see is the Mid-Autumn Festival, right? Which I have all this little thread of defend the diamond for hand over me. I remember that there's a Mid-Autumn Festival. I asked for a store so I can put leaflets and campaign for the family. Even I prefer to pay for a store. No. This is a festival for the celebration. It's not a your proposed activity to have a store is to damage the harmony of the Mid-Autumn Festival. So I have to go without a store. That's why I have to walk like a clown with all this T-shirt, big wording, defend the diamond for, and all this thread. Just live and collection. And lucky enough, we got the media coverage, and on the appeal that they were released, they didn't appeal against the conviction. They appeal against the sentence, and the judge have the sense to see that and immediately release them.
So that in total, how long was it? How long did they have to spend inside?
Probably 2.5 months, I think. Probably 2.5 months, yeah.
Because the sentence was for years.
A year or 18 months, yeah.
It's really great that they got out.
Yeah, but still, it's they have to serve the sentence, have a conviction against them for life.
Yeah, because the conviction was kept.
Yeah, of course. No, it's a criminal record. It's a criminal record. Stay with you.
And
yeah, it's bad.
Do you know what happened to those 4 waiters afterwards? After they got released?
2 have open restaurant. One wasn't very successful, closed down very soon. The other one became quite successful down in Gloucestershire, I think. Yeah, and then the other 2 remain as a waiter for the rest of their life. Well, until I see them recently, a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Oh, so they're still in London.
Yeah.
And so this is the Diamond 4 in 87.
Yeah.
Then in the 90s, the Diamond 5, was it the same?
99. The same restaurant. It has changed hands. It's called New Diamond. And mid-December, 5 drunk came in. Big punch up. Police arrived. The customer already left. Window broken, and one of the waiter had a shatter tendon, breathing badly. Police arrived, questioned everybody, and called the ambulance. The ambulance took the injured waiter to hospital. While the ambulance go past the arcade in Water Street, he saw the 5 attacker sitting at the pavement. Right, he told the ambulanceman, "Hey, those are the 5 that came to the restaurant." Well, the ambulance called the police. Police took the 5 to the police station. Right. The next thing, the police completely took their story. Go back to the restaurant, arrest 4 waiter, go to hospital, arrest the waiter in hospital. Charged them with grievous bodily harm and whatever. Right? And at that point I was working in the local authority. Someone who knew that I have dealt with 1987 situation find me and said, "Look, same restaurant, same bunch of police from the same police station, right? The Chinatown unit, right?" And asked me whether I'll go to help. So I said, okay. I also knew some of the waiter. I said, okay. So I started the campaign. And by first get in touch with all the Chinese organizations, by the time I'm out of the scene for about a decade. But I still know quite a bit of the personnel around. ring up this Chinese organization. Hey, you got funding from the council, public money. You have advice work. These people being arrested. Right? I need your help. They all said, "Oh, not in our brief. Our funding is not about this. Our funding is advice work. It's not about police matter." If these people were arrested, they must have done something wrong, and without knowing that whether they're guilty, how can we help? Right? The whole bloody point is that these people are not guilty. The community is under attack. Right? None of the organization prepared to take up the case. So I said, okay, you don't take up the case, fine. I'll do it myself. I talk to individuals, right? The organization don't take up. I know the individual in the Chinese centers. I said, look, on this case, whether you take up or not is fine. How about this? This is a millennium year. We all know the way the British, the white celebrate the Christmas and New Year every year. They are long millennium year. The millennials only give them more excuse to have more drink. The way they celebrate is to go to the pub crawling, get some drunk, and go to the Chinese restaurant and beat a couple of, abuse a couple of waiters, and that is their fun. Right? If you agree that is something that we should challenge, right? I believe that between now and the new year, there will be more cases. Right? If you agree, let us form a rota. Right? I go to the I advertise. I call the newspaper and dump the Chinese organization in and say, look, all this organization get funding from local government. They have advice service. During the working hour, if you are being attacked, go to them. Whether they help you or not, you still go to them. Let them say no. After hour, we have this group of volunteers. We publish on the 26th, 27th, 28th, who is on rota, what's the number. If anything happened on those days, when the China Center are closed, ring this person, and will someone advise you. Surprise, surprise. During that time, there's plenty of attack. One was in Barking, in particular vicious. 3 attacks over 3 days. Smash window, everything. So it happened on, I don't know whether you know, Lam Chunfat Lam. He is a barrister. He was on rota. He got a call that the police turned up, didn't do anything. So he advised them what to do, and I referred them to me. And the day they referred to me, the following day, that same evening, there's another attack. So from that, we started build on, and also a lot of other cases came forward, of historical cases. So by that time, we built a picture that the New Diamond is not an isolated incident. Within a matter of weeks, all these many other cases, blah blah blah, and build a case of, look, this is the police unfair treatment of Chinese community that built on the finding of institutional racism of the Stephen Lawrence campaign. That we sort of campaign on the platform of evidence of police institutional racism against Chinese. Racism against Chinese. This is something new. All the media suddenly feel that there's a story in there. All the English media, all they have heard about is racism against the black, against the Asian. Racism against Chinese is news. It has news value. They must report it. So I have the Guardian, I have the Independent, I have all the daily paper, I have Time Out. They all report this case as Jabez Lam alleged the police institutional racism, and we got him off. The police immediately turned around arrest the 5 drunk, reinvestigate them, and in the end, it's such a contradicting evidence between the two sets of facts. We don't know who to believe. So, drop all the charges. Right. And then all of a sudden, Chinese also being racially discriminated appear on the agenda. And when I told you earlier, we chat about the media. 3 years later, similar things happened to the Mr. Wang Punhei in Cheltenham.
In Manchester?
In Cheltenham.
Cheltenham.
I started a campaign. When Mr. Wang got arrested, with the same media, the same journalists, for help. None of them published. I go back. Hey, what's going on? Well, last time, New Diamond, you front page reporting. I really need you to help. I go, no, Jabez, no. I did do the article. I did come to interview. We're really sympathetic, but it didn't pass the editor. Why? You know, at the New Diamond, it was news. We didn't know Chinese suffer from racial attack. We already knew now. What is the news value in this? That is the media for you. Yeah.
And was that the case of the couple who were attacked, and the wife was then arrested? This one?
No. The wife was attacked and was hit by a bottle and broke her head. Then the husband sort of got very angry. The husband was being attacked. The husband is a kung fu master, right? Even though being a repeated attack, he sort of not exhibiting his kung fu and just suffer and try to fend them off. But when one of the youth grabbed a bottle and smashed the bottle on his wife's head and broke his wife's head, bleeding, he went in the kitchen and get the knife out and grabbed a girl on the floor and chopped the knife on the floor, and 4 strands of her hair was on the floor. All the kids then scared and went out. Called the police. Surprise, surprise! Police arrested Mr. Wang. And on the basis that there was strand of hair on the floor that where he hit his knife hit the floor. That is grievous bodily harm. So we started a campaign, and actually again came off.
And that was 2003?
About 2003. Yeah, 2003.
So, in terms of Minchuan,
yeah.
the foundation, and that work, did that come out of the New Diamond campaign?
Yeah, from the New Diamond show that changed my life. I was a comfortable bureaucrat working in the local authority full-time, 35-hour with no nonsense, paper pushing, getting a regular income to pay my bill. That the number of cases came forward the month after New Diamond is unbelievable. And because I was the front person who advertised and called upon the community to get organized and campaign for it. When these cases came forward, I cannot just leave it unattained. So I resigned half-time from the council and do half-time on the cases. and in the meantime apply for funding. And within months we get funding from the city parochial. So I'm working half-time in the council, and so-called half-time handling the cases. And that's how it all sort of grow. And once you receive funding, you have the responsibility to further development. And by that time, so many cases that evidence patterns emerge. Well, the main pattern emerge is secondary victimization. So that's how we started mention and advertise that series of action.
And at that time, which council were you working for?
Always working for Hackney.
For Hackney?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm still working in Hackney.
Yeah. I think we've talked about most campaigns, although I think the Save Chinatown and Save the Oriental City campaigns we haven't mentioned.
Yeah, I think the foot and mouth campaign is something that I feel in particular worth to mention, in the sense that I think that is the only time that a British minister make a public apology to the Chinese community. And it starts with the foot and mouth disease gripped the country. Talk about the cow. Talk about the farming community suffer, and all of a sudden, then the news come about of, well, we have eliminated foot and mouth disease from this country for over 40 years. Everyone was puzzled where it come from, right? And then all of a sudden on the news that the latest the latest need is that we believe that it's come from a Chinese restaurant. And the story was that the Chinese were so stingy that they decided to import illegal meat, save them something like £1,000 a ton, and this restaurant in Newcastle have imported a load of illegal meat, and they were infested with foot and mouth disease. And then the cook to serve the customer then were left behind, become the food waste, which was collected to bring to this farm. This farm fed it as pig's will, and that is the first farm that found the foot and mouth disease. And this comes from Chinese evidence. We have to follow that lead. It appeared in all the respectable newspaper, Guardian, all this. Well, and luckily we have someone who is very active in the British politics, Anna Chen. I don't know whether you know Anna Chen. Anna Chen is second generation Chinese. Her father is a community leader in the Second World War, raised fund for the Chinese Communist Party to fight the Japanese in this country, raised fund in Europe. And Anna Chen involved in politics a lot. True and true socialist. She knows how the media world works. She was the media coordinator for the Socialist Alliance in the year 2000s, year 2000s and year 2005's general election. So he knows how the machine runs. And she told me that story like that on the same day appear in the news. All these major broadsheet, not tabloid, broadsheet newspaper. The source can only come from 10 Downing Street. The way the media work is that they have informal briefing, right? informal briefing is that the newspaper will look who said that. But this briefing happened every day between the editors and the Downing Street and the government press people. And if the government want to release some information without associating themselves to it, they say it in the briefing. If they prepare to put their name down, it's a proper press conference, press release. So Anna knew that it is from the government, no one else. And it's the way we believe. It's the way the government want to divert attention for the failure to control the foot and mouth, for the failure to detect it in time. And when they got out of hand, they found a scapegoat. Chinese are the timid mouse that would take anything they throw at us. So they thought they can just put it on the Chinese. Unfortunately, this time they have Anna, who knew it straight away. And Anna has a blog, right? Put on the blog. Anna is a part of this also. There's two. At that time there was quite new community website. The BBC Online, British One Chinese Online, and Dim Sum, right? So Anna is a member of both, right? Put on those as well. They got big reaction, right? And when I got the news of this, when I read the news, I was already working on Minchuan. Being so few people that were prepared to open their mouth in this country, when this news came about, how people, the media, some knew me, called me, asked me for comment. Right, so I made my initial comment. At that time, I didn't know this briefing system. My position was that someone is scapegoating the Chinese community. But soon it was confirmed by Anna. And then immediately that what's the name? Edward Ho from a Chinese magazine called Sun Gaixin. Sun Gaixin, what's the English name? Is Song Yis. Edward Ho was the editor of a newspaper in Hong Kong. After then he emigrated here in his late 50, and he worked in that Song Yis as editor. When Edward in Hong Kong, things like this happen. There's plenty of protests. He found there's no protest among Chinese community when this news came out. He was surprised. He was here for a couple of years. He knew me, so he called me. He called Thomas Chen, right? And I said, look, what's wrong with the Chinese in this country? They got stand there and say nothing. I said, look, yeah, we've got to do something, but really, this is something that we need the community to respond. And everyone said, look, I don't care what you people think. I will invite people to join me for a protest in Downing Street. I said, okay, when are you going to do it? Tomorrow. Come on, right? Tomorrow is a tube strike. I said, look, if you want to organize something, you organize it properly. You don't do it half-heartedly. No, this require immediate response. I said, look, this issue won't go away. You need some more mobilization before you do it. And he insisted to go ahead. I said, okay, I will come along tomorrow. I will take part in it. But I think this is only this is a shot in the eyeball, not the main one. After this, we have to organize the main one. So the following day we went. One is a strike. Two, it was so short notice. About 20-something people turn up. Edward Ho prepared all the placard, everything. Went to Downing Street, shower field slogan. They came into his office, and I said, look, okay, we show our slogan now, let's organize something bigger. Right? He's not interested. I've done my part already. And by that time, among the BBC Online and Dim Sum already have quite a bit of heated discussion. At that time, I used to email, but I am very behind this new technology. Haven't heard of this website. Someone pointed me to the direction. I look out. Oh wow! Well, then I saw Anna, name on there. I got in touch with Anna, and met with Anna. We got to do something together. Oh, fellow socialists, good. Agree that we need to do something. So use Anna's because Anna is on all these websites. So also at that time he already the media coordinator for the Social Alliance. She has a contact. So okay, we agree that we got to organize this. We got to organize with the Chinese community. That's how we start. And I think it's a separate event that the Chinatown Association is organizing. I just gave crash to the meeting and raised this and said, look, we got to organize this. And the chair, Chu said, well, how confident are you that you can get people interest? I said, I don't care how confident. Right? As far as I'm concerned, we've got to express ourselves. It is not just about you, it's not just about me. Right? It's about we bring the country's farming community to its need. That is the allegation. Either we do something or we carry this blame. What do you suggest? I suggest a half-day strike or demonstration. Who's going to do that? I said, look, well, I just need your name. And it's their meeting. I just put it there and say, okay, if you think that you can get people interest, come back to us. I said, okay, if that is all your interest, I call up, because I'm already in touch with these people, I call up the Guardian, I call up the Independent while the meeting going on. And they said they're interested. I go back to the meeting. I said, look, I just talked to so-and-so in Guardian, so-and-so in the Independent, right? I haven't called my other contact yet. They immediately show interest. Right, you're going to do it or not. If you don't do it, I'll do it myself. And I tell them that you're not interested. Oh yeah, okay, I will. So then we can organize. We got the name of all these leaders behind the calling for action. And then on the date before the demonstration on a Sunday. I think on that Wednesday or Thursday already a lot of media, in particular the Independent, Jasmine Albert Brown, right, beat the big priest and kick off the whole campaign, which have a very good coverage in getting other media interests as well. That's been around and followed by that. Followed by that, there are other good article from Yasmin on how the Chinese communities gone past the stage of silence, getting organized. So I think that piece in particular, this is Guardian. Not this one. There's another one from Yasmin that really bring out the whole change in the Chinese community politics scene. Yeah. Anyway, that was before the demonstration. The demonstration is in April. Already have March. There's a lot of interview and that galvanized the whole community because of the coverage from the mainstream. broadsheet and also big coverage. That sort of bring a lot of Chinese usually not in the immediate Chinese community, Chinese catering trade, also interest. And that we have a big coverage for a few days. The demonstration was on Sunday. Then on Friday afternoon, Nick Brown asked for a meeting with community leader. Right. At that time, there was something from Home Office. I forgot what's it called now. It's a sort of ethnic minority forum, something like that. So every community has someone in there how to advise on a voluntary capacity or the advise the Home Office on the ethnic minority affair. Thomas Chen was on the forum, and someone called him and say Nick Brown want to meet Chinese community leaders about this issue. Know that there's a demonstration on Sunday. And Thomas called me and I said, look, to do this, we need to go and see Nick Brown, put a demand to him, and that we got to get him to agree on something. And who are the people that we get him to come along? They throw a number of leaders. I said, okay, all right. I just need 3 more people. All right. I will be there. Anna must be there. And Dim Sum must be there. Right. Why? Look, these are people that organized so far. All your leaders have said yes. Tell me one incident that have organized anything. Okay. So between me, Anna, and Sarah Ye, before the meeting, we draft a 10-point letter, right, of our demand. And on the morning, half an hour before we went into MEF, we met everyone meet up together, about 10 of us. I present this and look, this is what we're going to ask Nick Brown. We better agree this before we get in. So we met Nick Brown. We put to him. We demand that 1, an apology to the Chinese community. 2, to investigate who started this rumor. 3 is to identify which media is the culprit all along the line. And went to meet him, and on that morning, Anna also she always monitor all this web information. She find from the what's it called, Combat 18's website, which is it's not called National Front at that time, British National Party, the right-wing fascist party, front organization, Combat 18 website, have a little article about the Chinese bringing the disease that have been eliminated forcibly into this country. So out with this, and I said, look, we have to show this to Nick Brown. In the meeting, refer it to Nick Brown. Look at this. This is a direct result of the slander. And we asked Nick Brown that to liaise with the Home Office to have a instruction to all police force in the country in view of this Combat 18's leaflet article to heighten their attention to protect the Chinese communities from racial attack. And on the day of demonstration, Nick Brown gave an open apology. He went in front of the MEF office, facing the demonstrator, give an apology, and make also promises. We fight shoulder to shoulder with our Chinese community to create blah blah blah. Sorry. Politician talk. Yeah. So I think the foot and mouth is one success story of how the community united can get things achieved. And as a result of the foot and mouth campaign, we formed the Chinese Civil Rights Action Group, which is the first organization, as far as I understand, of Chinese organization in this country, with a clear aim and objective is to advance and promote the civil rights of the Chinese community. Also, the first organization to have a very good representation in the committee of people from the first generation from Hong Kong, people like me, second generation Hong Kong, people from Vietnam, people from Malaysia, people from Singapore, professional, catering, service, artists, a very good group of people. That with a good representation, with the aim to advance the interest of Chinese community, civil rights. But it don't last for 18 months and collapse. Yeah.
How? Why?
Oh, I was the chair. No, the traditional leader, with the vice chair and the treasurer. We have one of the first tasks is then to formalize ourselves, right? Then we start to talk about how the national organization have branches in everywhere, invite for representation from from all over the country to organize a conference. It was all agreed, and then come to relief finance. The vice chair is the community leader, said, money is not a problem. Our Chinese community are rich. I know all the community leader. Whereas I sort out the finance. So the vice chair and the treasurer will sort out the finance. All the finance were ready. We discussed for a few months about the constitution, blah 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 blah, everything in place. And then we decided to call for the conference. And on the preparation meeting of call for the conference, the vice chair and the treasurer said, look, we already talked to all the people. People are willing to give donation on one condition: you can't be the chair. Okay, why? That's where the money is at. But is that civil right? Well, that's not my opinion. How do people give donation want? People don't trust you. I said, well, fine. If people don't trust me, well, put it to the vote. Well, get someone and let us both run for the office. Let the vote decide. No, if you don't agree, no money. Then at that time also, that was in 2002. No. Yeah, 2002, I think. No, 2000, yeah. Anyway, I think there is a 1 year or 2 year anniversary of the Dover 58. Right. So by that time, I also with Anna organized the anniversary. It's the second anniversary of Dover 58. After the body was shipped back to China, yeah, second anniversary. So we decided to have a memorial service and protest outside the Home Office. And the slogan is because initially the police is all victimizing the family of the Dover 58. And we have to campaign for them not to check the immigration when they identify the body. And that heighten the immigration situation, and we also call for that. Look, the cause of the Dover 58 tragedy is because of tough immigration. So we decided to call for a demonstration, a memorial anniversary with a protest. The protest is with the 58 victims' picture, and a demand for the less in the immigration. And in our statement, we said something along the line of that the tragedy of the Dover 58 is that you have a situation of whereby people were desperate to escape from China and unable to come to Britain by the normal route because of racist immigration system. So that forced them to take the unconventional route and become a pawn to the criminal organized crime. And these community leaders do not like the mention of these people are desperate to leave China, because China is supposed to be such a wonderful country. They have a double-digit growth in the economy. How can they be desperate? And in fact, when the Dover 58 first happened, Chinese embassy here denied they were Chinese. But we organized that, and being part of the CCIAC committee, we vote to take part in that. And by a narrow margin of, I think it's 7-6, we agree that Chinese Civil Rights Action Group support this protest. And this community leader used that to pull the whole thing down. That you do these things to blacken the name of a mother country. How can we trust you to be a chair? So that's the end of our civil rights.
Politics. So, I mean, the foot and mouth campaign was a real success, though. I mean, do you think that between 87 and then the first diamond case and the second case in the 99, and around the millennium there was a lot of attacks, a lot of different things going on. Do you think that these kind of race relations have moved on in these years, or are some of the problems still here?
They're still here. I think in terms of the policy and experience of the police in dealing with racial attack, definitely it's better. Better in terms of they have more elaborate policies. The policy are quite good policy, in fact. Identify for example, how they have clear definition of racial attack, clear identification of they recognize secondary victimization, they recognize institutional racism, they recognize that this will be a victim-centered service, right? So in terms of the policy, there's big improvement. However, but the two problems that I think are, one, that the Chinese community do not have a consistent input into this, and that the Chinese community is lacking the kind of political awareness and activists to maintain the services. So after I left Minchuan, UK Chinese Time, I know how they have, for a period of something like 18 months, all of a sudden there are a lot of articles emerge about calling for people to report on their experience of attack by youth to their catering establishment. So which is something that during the time of Minchuan been raised, been taken on casework, and obviously by the fact that I think it must be in 2009 or 2010, that happened UK Chinese Time on this campaign. that just demonstrate that these are continued, and the problem for the police is, one, when the resources is tight, the specialist usually gone. Two, the policy is there, but when you don't have the specialist officers to maintain and push, then it's down to the community to be able to hold them account, and we are not able to. So in terms of policy and procedure to tackle, there's an improvement. But in terms of as a community to hold the police account to implement these policies, I think we're going backward.
Do you think that that backward? Do you think that will lead to more problems in the future, or?
It's already here. I mean, just go back to the situation of either the attack was not being investigated, taken serious, or that secondary victimization happened and nobody challenged it. Inevitably, in such a situation, injustice carried. I mean, for our community organization, our community leaders, there's too much emphasis of harmony, too much emphasis of promoting the good image.
So, okay, let's try. Let's try and just sort of wrap up a little bit. Are there any other campaigns that you'd like to talk about?
The Oriental City is interesting.
Yeah.
Oriental City interesting is because that one is quite a successful story, quote unquote, in the sense that Oriental City, brief, don't give the background, right? Now, a shopping mall, predominant Chinese and Oriental traders, developer bought it, wanted to demolish it, and by demolishing it, it would throw the livelihood all these traders out our business and lost their livelihood. Initially, the developer refused to contemplate that's not true. Initially, the developer only agreed to give £250,000 to the mayor as hardship fund to those who are affected. There's about 30 traders in there. £250,000, I don't know how divided by 50 is 5,000 each, whatever. Yeah, which is nothing. Yeah, so about a third of the traders in there have grouped together, formed the association, Oriental City Tenants Association, campaigned to save it. Very good response from the community, but after 4 or 5 months, the mayor decided to approve the application, and the tenant decided, okay, in that case that we will go and ask for a compensation package, a settlement to help them relieve their hardship, and a promise of the return of Oriental City in the new development. And as a result, we got the Oriental City Tenants Association got £1.5 million from the developer, and a year rent-free for all tenants in there. So the package is about £4 million, right? After Oriental City was closed, 2 years after that, then I discovered half of the £1.4 million that were given to the Oriental City Tenants Association as compensation went missing. I asked how it came about is one of the Orange City, we call it Otter, Orange City Tennis, one of the Otter members didn't get a penny of compensation. And he took the Otter to court. And from that, an account emerged. And from that account, then I realized only half of the money was distributed to the Otter members. The other half, the compensation was paid to a solicitor firm to distribute. This solicitor firm have all the money in their hand. Instead of distribute to the members, they scream off half of it, give it to the chair of Otter. When I find it out, when this Otter member didn't get any compensation, took them to court, they have this account, and I found it out, then I confront all the other members, hey, you guys took the compensation 2 years ago. Do you realize that is a large proportion of short? Right? You know it was 1.5 million pounds. You know your share, the share is according to the percentage of the membership fees. You know your share. Don't you know that a large amount went missing? Yeah, I know. Well, why don't you do anything? Well, to start with, Martin is the guy who took them to court. Martin is taking action. If Martin is successful, then we'll follow. So we just watching closely. But Martin, after spending £30,000, completely dry out his finance, haven't even reached the courtroom. So nobody dared to do it. 2, we thought you were part of it. So they all thought that I'm part of the scam to cream off the half of the compensation. Why? Because you were so close to the chair. You were so close to this solicitor. I introduced the solicitor to Otter. Right? This solicitor is called Lam. Right? I knew her from the Foot and Mouth campaign. She was a student then. That she came with volunteer distributive list. Then I met her. Then she went on. She was an A-level student. Then she went on to do law. Then she finished her study in law. Then she decided to go to Hong Kong to learn Mandarin. And I introduced her to my friend, and she lived with my friend, and my friend introduced her to the Hong Kong University to learn Mandarin and what blah blah blah. And then I arranged her before her 3 years. The time limit is up. I introduced her. I actually arranged the whole training for her with a solicitor. So finished her training, and then opened this firm. And Orange City Tennis Association Otter campaign as the first customer, and I introduced to her. Right. And I couldn't believe that she could have siphoned off more than £700,000 with the chair. And in the process of that, everybody thought that I'm not a scammer. So I told these people, okay, fine, I don't blame you, right? These are not my money, these are your money. I can't claim them, right? I can't claim it back for you. All I want is one condition, right, to prove that I'm not part of it. You guys sign me your authorization. Authorize me to represent you to claim this money back for you. That was in April 2010. It's 4 years now. Today, before I came to this meeting, I was with the barrister. That at this stage, we just took them to court, served the court paper, right, to claim them back, well, the £700,000. Right. It took us 4 years to start with. None of them have any paperwork. We went to the firm and asked the firm, give us a paper. They said, no, I'm not going to give it to you. What we did is that it took us 2 years to go to legal ombudsman. Legal ombudsman investigation upheld all our complaints, right? Ordered the firm to release all the paper to us, and fined the firm £15,000 to give to auto member, specifically spell out that use this £15,000 to find a solicitor to sue the firm to recover the money. And that's what I'm doing. In 6 months' time, I think I'll be able to get the money back for them. That will prove my innocence.
Well, I hope good luck with that.
I need that luck. I need that luck. Been 4 years. Been 4 years.
Yeah.
Coming close to end.
Wow. And so that's the Oriental City campaign.
Yeah, and it's now the site, because of the financial collapse, the original plan wasn't worked out. And last year, a new plan is drawn out and got planning. So hopefully next year we will have a new Oriental shopping mall. Will be smaller than previous, which is a condition from the last campaign. We secure with the developer that when the new development is complete, we will have the return of the Oriental shopping mall and a community space. So the mission still continue. The new plan, the developer have honored the agreement that when it is built, we will have a community space 500 square foot, and we will have a 56,000 square foot of Oriental shopping mall.
Think about another. Can we quickly talk about the Dover 58 and Morecambe Bay?
Dover 58, Fordham Bay. Both are the tragedy of the British immigration system to start with, that has closed the door for people quite innocent. People just want to improve their life. People prepare to work. And yet the immigration system, despite the shortage of workers, in particular Chinese Christian workers here, not allow these people to come. At the same time, they don't have a Chinese catering training here. So there is the simple push and pull effect of that. These people in China, for whatever circumstances, most of them are peasants, poor background, want to improve their life, prepared to go abroad to work. There's a demand for labor here. But because of the system, then they falling victim to go to the only channel that open to them, which is criminal organized crime. And the way they came is have to escape the detection and use also method. In Dover 58 is a situation of in the transportation that they died of suffocation. More came, similar background, different story. That they arrive, they're not allowed to work. They're lucky enough to survive, but then the condition here is so bad that because they are not allowed to work, they were falling victim to the organized crime, the illegal game masters. Very often are the very people who organize them to come here. Most of them, the circumstances is that they don't have the money to come. They raise a loan, organized by the criminal element. When they arrive, the criminal element would find them a job, and take the money from them to pay off the so-called loan. And this is a situation that both in the Morecambe situation, people arrive, but then fallen victims of can't find regular job, and have to rely on the stakehead, on the criminal element, put them into whatever job, which often are unprotected, dangerous, people don't reward, and that is criminal have no consideration of their safety at all, for the concern just to squeeze them and make them work and get the money to pay the loan. And unfortunately, both tragedies have similar costs.
Do you think that in the past, well, it's been 7 years since Morecambe, I know it had a lot of media attention at the time. Do you think that...
Morecambe been 10 years now. Yeah, this is 10th anniversary.
10 years. And do you think that in that time anything has changed?
Anything changed? Worse. Immigration rule worse, more tough. You still have people come, right? Maybe not that frequent or that large number, but people still come illegally. Those who are in here are subject to more exploitation, tougher environment. Because of the immigration, you have situation of some solicitor who dream also of scam and taking money from the pool. And unfortunately, that they haven't improved. It gets worse. Yeah.
So, do you think this is... I'm going to ask you about the major issues facing the Chinese community today. This may be one of them. Like, how do you feel the Chinese community is combating these problems, or how do you see the future?
Big question. Well, to start with, I'm out of the field for a while. I don't claim to be expert, but from the various areas that have been campaigning on, I think something to talk about campaigning is not very often. People see campaigning is that someone that have the contact, that how to manipulate the public opinion, they have the media contact and manipulate the media, and that's campaigning. My view is, I am a nobody. All the campaign that I carry out would not have any mileage if it doesn't touch the hardship and the experience of the community. By that fact of many of the campaign that I get a reasonable response, I won't say it's success, but reasonable response, that some have achieved some concession, demonstrate that the issues that I have involved in the campaigning are issues that are shared experience, quite common experience among the Chinese community, namely racial attack, the horrendous working condition, the immigration unreasonableness, the fraudulence, community leaders, solicitors, lack of proper professional service, shall we say, right? All these are not new issues. These are issues that, unfortunately, 35 years ago when I started this journey, already exist, right? Maybe it is of different format. Maybe it's not as harsh. Maybe that the revenue and experience of dealing are better than 35 years ago, but those are the same issue. And I think the main problem from the example of what I just thought about the Oriental city, the main problem in the Chinese community are two issues, I think. One is that we do not encourage our second generation to take interest in social and political matter. We believe in quote-unquote harmony, positive image. We don't talk about suffering. We don't talk about unfairness. Right? That is our own making. The second problem is accountability. Right? We have too many community leaders. We don't know where they come from. I'm one of them. Someone call me community leader. Right? Which I'm a nobody. Right? I'm just an average Chinese person, happen to take the view that when you see unfairness, injustice, either you sit back or you work to challenge it. Unless there's more people that are prepared to stand up and challenge the injustice, this will continue.
So I know it's very difficult work that you do with these campaigns. Like, how do you find motivation when it's?
I had to start with, I think, as I said, well, it's my. I think I'm lucky enough that on my student day I met a group of similar-minded people that have the privilege to share certain ideology, that we believe that injustice needs to challenge. We believe that inequality is not right. We believe that only by human intervention, racism is not natural. Exploitation is not something natural. It's man-made. So just happen to be, we believe that this can be changed.
So your motivations in your work still come back to your forcing, the awakening?
Oh yeah, forcing. Yeah.
It's still an inspiration for you?
Yeah. Those principles still inspire me. Yeah.
And do you feel that your Chinese heritage has affected your work, your campaigns, and how you've gone about them?
My Chinese heritage, well, I think the fact that all my campaigns are about advancement of the civil rights of the Chinese community, right? That is the Chinese heritage I carry, and protect, and defend, and promote. And it affects me in the sense of that. That's a quote-unquote, sometimes the Chinese perspective. The Chinese perspective, like I said earlier, for example, is the village strike. Right? The strange thing is that on the very same issue about workers' rights, I was being attacked by the community leader, even employing triad to beat me up. But when a employment right issue that promote in defense of the Chinese workers, when the perpetrator is not Chinese, then it's okay. That is a funny bit that I feel the so-called Chinese perspective is sometimes the powerful sentiment of Chinese being victimized. Very often that is misplaced. When the issue is not about Chinese being victimized, when the issue is about employment rights, people can quite readily block their mind out this is not an issue of employment rights. It's an issue about, well, attack on Chinese racial matter. Because if they don't brought their mind out, the very same person will question themselves how they treat their own worker. Maybe that's the Chinese way. Maybe is that a Chinese heritage? I don't know.
And you must be so busy with all the campaigns over the years. Like, how did you fit it in with your personal life and with your other jobs?
Well, when I was with Minchuan, I literally go to work half time in the council. All the other time is on Minchuan. My phone was 24 hours.
So did you find any time for recreation or other hobbies?
In those years, very little. Yeah. And the last few years since I left Minchuan, and now is a full-time bureaucrat. So I can do a bit more. Yeah.
So what do you like to do for recreation?
Well, I do a lot of reading. Yeah. And I like the countryside, a bit of traveling. Yeah.
So I think we'll have to. That's all the questions I'm going to ask.
Thank you, Masui.
It's been a long interview, and I think we should start to wrap up. But if there's anything else you want to mention.
No, good luck to your project.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you so much for coming and visiting us and sharing your memories.
Okay.
There are so many.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting.
Well, I will always believe, like I said, one of the witnesses, I always believe half the problem of the Chinese community is that we don't share. We don't share our experience. Right? We suffer in silence ourselves individually, even though there's a common heritage, common experience of hardship. They're not something to be mentioned. And I believe, like I said earlier, that I'm a nobody, but then because I'm the one who prepared to share this experience, the mainstream media find it somehow, because someone prepared to speak up about the hardship community or the experience of community, and they can't find someone else, and I become a leader. How nice.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your experiences with us today. It's